We're here to solve difficult problems. If the problems were easy, nobody would be here on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. I think we all care about water quality, and the solutions and all of the options and all of the things that we're talking about are laid on top of a landscape of historic experience. And so I'm very happy that you got to hear everything that was shared from everybody who is here today, because that's the community we live in. This is the island we live and share and are grateful to share and are honored to be here to be able to do this work. And I chose the term Waiwai Ola to highlight sort of a semantic thing about the Hawaiian language that I think, like Palikapu was saying, so many things are named and they have meaning that is very important to our understanding of history and our experience of this world around us. Waiwai means wealth, but it's a duplication of water, which is vai. So it's like water, water. So when you have water, you have abundance and you have life. And so Waiwai Ola is living wealth. And we've spent far too long in the mentality of wealth, earning, capital, money, and that's really how we got here. That's how the environment got to the state that it's in, because our effort was towards the vai of earning the dollars and not the vai of the resource itself being the wealth. And that's exactly the transformation that we need to make in this generation, because literally everything is depending on us making this transition and the Native Hawaiians experience, which is very critical. That's why we're here. That's why we need to hear this, because nobody makes it if we don't change what we're doing. And that's every plant, animal, insect, and especially people, because we're going to go first, and that's the truth. So Waiwai Ola means basically we cannot eat our money. We cannot drink our money. These things are not going to keep us alive. The things that are keeping us alive every day are all around us, and we have to protect them. There are over 10,000 native species in these Hawaiian Islands, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. We've already lost so many of them, right? So many things. And when we lose those things, we lose the practices that are depending on them in order to continue. My family has lived here in this Pacific Ocean for thousands of years, depending on the same plants, birds, animals, for traditions. If you look at a tree and you see your akua, what happens when you don't get to see that tree anymore? What happens to your psychology when the elements of your religion disappear in front of you? And that's, I think, what we have to get to the core of what it is like to be alive at this time in society when so many things are falling apart, and we realize that they're all related. They're all interrelated, and so are we. And we're all here to put it back together. And so that's what I want today to be about, is sort of like the reality of where we are, but sort of putting ourselves back to something we've never seen before. The truth is, in modern history in Hawaii, we haven't done it right yet. So we're looking for solutions to turn the tide, to make better choices. And the good news is we have people from the government who are willing to be here with us. And so Waterkeeper Alliance, just briefly, there's now over 340 waterkeepers. They're actually people who have organizations. So they're called Waterkeeper Alliance because they're just these 501c3s that exist all over the world. So there's 340 of them in over 40 countries on 5 continents that are all connected to the same mission of fishable, swimmable, drinkable water. So we started here in Hawaii in 2017, and actually because I got recruited while I was in law school. I never even knew Waterkeeper Alliance existed, but what I think it stands for is something that we need. There is no organization that is only dedicated to fishable, swimmable, drinkable water. I went to law school. I had the great honor of learning from Professor Kapua Sproat, who is our water law expert at the university. I was surprised by a lot of the things that I learned in law school that were not in practice in the environment. And so that was sort of my segue to wanting to make a difference in the future. Waterkeeper Alliance is led by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's been the president of Waterkeeper Alliance for almost 20 years, and he's dedicated his career to trying to solve really big problems. So we started with Oahu Waterkeeper. We're working on a lot of partnerships. Stormwater is a big issue. If you recognize this beach, you know that it should not look like this. This is Waimea Bay on Oahu, a very famous surf spot. But of course, you know, nobody can go in the water on days like this when the valley is just bleeding all of the soil from the inside out. And that's our future that's washing into the ocean because we need that soil to anchor our trees so that we can have rain. And that's really, really hard to watch. So we have to get a handle on stormwater, wastewater, and water quality. And that's exactly why we're here today. And we're going to hear later about native oysters that improve water quality, that actually filter the water to take out pollutants. And so a lot of our efforts on Oahu right now are geared towards water quality remediation. We're going to be working at the Army, with the Navy, at the Marine Corps base in Kaneohe. And we're going to start there. They have some areas that discharge into Kaneohe Bay, so we're going to put some oysters to improve water quality. We're going to be working in partnership with the fish pond over there, Paepaeohe, and Dr. Haas have been working together for many years producing oysters in their fish pond. It helps because the oysters filter the water quality in the fish pond to improve it, and they are going to serve as a juvenile nursery for growing the oysters up to an age where they can then get outplanted in various locations around the island. The reason why we're doing this is because it's important to have a conversation. It's not that we think the oysters are just going to fix everything in the water. We are the ones who have to fix everything in the water, but the oysters are actually really great ambassadors about what it is that's going wrong in the water, what it is that's going actually wrong on the land that's getting to the water to cause all these problems. And Waiwai Harbor, I think, is one of the greatest examples of a water quality just emergency for the state of Hawaii, because it actually flows out, as you can see from this map. That's the Waiwai, right, going through Waikiki, which has its own very, very horrible history. But then it comes out now and dumps right in between the two primary swimming areas on Oahu, I would argue. Ala Moana Beach Park, which is where most local people who live in town go to the beach, and then Waikiki Beach, where, of course, you know, we invite people to come and swim in what actually is probably not safe most of the time. And so we're going to put oysters out there just for the purpose of getting people's attention and hopefully cleaning the water, because that's what they do. As long as oysters are alive and breathing, and they're filtering and they're making things better. But we're going to actually work with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs on a curriculum that's going to reintegrate these oysters into our understanding of the world. We have a relationship to an oyster that was cut off many, many years ago, basically when Pearl Harbor became Pearl Harbor and not Loa or Manana. It became a place where people don't go anymore, and then there was a lot of contamination. And so after several generations, there's not been the opportunity to even know the oysters that came from the place called Pearl Harbor. But there are 2 species of pearl oyster that are from there that we know, because of Dr. Haas's work, is possible to reproduce. And so you're taking a resource that we have been cut off for a very long time, and then through a partnership with UH, able to put that resource back into the water where it came from, to repopulate it in the wild, and hopefully, you know, larvae travel. So our dream is that they are, you know, together in high concentrations again. They can make lots of little larvae, they catch the current and they go other places. And so we have 4 locations that we're looking at on Oahu, but several other communities that are already asking for this. It's I think, powerful as just a demonstration tool, just thoughts about what's going on in the water. And so we're going to be working with the Polynesian Voyaging Society, because Hokulea, you know, went around the world, and when it came back, a lot of children were very interested in what happened with Malama Honua. So now they have this steady stream of children coming through, learning about the va'a. And at the same time, we're going to have oysters right underneath the va'a, where it's moored at the METC, which is in Sand Island, so that we can get the kids' attention and have this educational curriculum integrated into what they do, so that they get an opportunity to learn about stormwater, wastewater, and water quality. We're also working with this group called Navai Ekolu. They're a consortium of about 30 schools in the watershed of the Alawai. Also working to integrate that educational curriculum in there in partnership with OHA to get some, I think, just the biggest attention to personal responsibility for the Alawai. So the Alawai actually drains from 3 streams, Manoa, Makiki, and Palolo. And so if I'm a resident of Manoa, what I'm doing in my yard, what I'm doing with my car, all of these things affect ultimately the Alawai. And so because people are so out of sight, out of mind, people think, oh yeah, Alawai, Waikiki, that's Waikiki's problem, essentially. But not really, it's actually everybody's problem. And so that's the intention for the environmental curriculum. And this is just a graphic about how we affect our waters. We affect our streams in so many different ways with agriculture, and leptospirosis, and stormwaters that drain into the streams and into the ocean. We affect our ocean with all of the things that we choose with our energy and global warming, plastic waste, again, stormwater runoff and overfishing, fishing sort of out of balance. You know, out of balance is the key. And I think that unfortunately, so many times decision makers rush to things like, oh, just no fishing. And one of my favorite things that Uncle Mac Poi Poi said when I used to be in Maui, and he used to come over for talks with Maui Marine Resource Council, he used to say, it's not no take, it's take care. So if we could just maybe extend that thought process, right, to all the things that we do. Sometimes we make a regulation and it's so final, right? But I think that in a lot of times, if we could just learn the natural system and live in balance with that, that's really important. We have to live in this experience that we have of our environment, and so living in balance with it in all of the things that we do to affect the streams is really important. So Konokos Waterkeeper actually got approved by Waterkeeper Alliance last year, and with the goal of understanding how nearshore waters are affected by water quality impacts from the ocean and how that's affecting our swimming and fishing in that area. Freshwater sustainability regarding lots of pumping, lots of development taking place in Kona. We need to watch our aquifers, and many impacts from tourism that I think go under the radar. Hilo Bay Waterkeeper was just approved a couple of weeks ago. So the goal is to staff both of these organizations in 2019. And because we have, you know, real problems, like we were talking about yesterday, cesspools, this is like the cesspool battlefield. Like, if we don't figure it out here, that, I mean, it's almost the whole state's cesspools put together is this island, unfortunately. And so we really have to get a handle on that. And I think that it's going to take like lots of one-on-one, you know, relationships and engagement. And it's going to take a lot of organizations working on this issue, a lot of people to get through what might be the biggest challenge to our water quality of this generation, for sure. And so,
question?
Yes.
Can you clarify what you meant on the whole state cesspools is on this island?
Yes, there's approximately 50,000 cesspools on the Big Island, and there's 80,000 cesspools in the whole state. So more than all the other islands put together, there is that many cesspools here. And the reason why is because the Big Island has been sort of allowed to grow just in ways that maybe were not in balance with the environment, and so it grew beyond places where there's wastewater treatment facilities. So yesterday we saw a slide that showed this entire island and a little bit of sewer in the Hilo area and a little bit of sewer in the Kona area, and then everything else is not sewered. So I think the director shared that about 5 to 10% of the island is sewered, whereas something like 80 or 90% of Oahu is sewered. So when you think about the difference, everything is not sewered, it's waste that's going directly into the ground and through the cesspools. And so Hawaii Island has a crisis in that way, with waste that's not actually going to treatment, it's actually just going to the water table. Yes?
Do you address the fact that the geology on this island being volcanic and porous? Did you guys talk about that yesterday? Or
yeah, we talked about how the different systems, there's no one size fits all kind of, they're called on-site disposal systems. So it's basically, under my house I have something to catch the waste water that's produced from my house because I can't connect to something else, right? So when you have that, it's called an on-site disposal system. It depends on where you live, what kind of system might work better for you. So in areas where the water table is really high, like Puako and actually Keaukaha and some other places, if the system is almost sitting in the water, then it's going to get corroded and it's going to get to the water table a lot faster. So at that point, it doesn't matter if you have a septic system, a cesspool, a aerobic treatment unit, they pretty much perform the same way. So the DOH is actually putting a lot of work right now into a study that will be done by June of 2019 to assess different types of on-site disposal systems that are in creation right now that might be ideal for places that are above drinking water aquifers. And the reason why is because you have a lot of contamination over areas like upcountry Maui where an entire community's aquifer could be threatened. Keaukaha on this island is another place like that where there's a fear that the cesspools that are above drinking water aquifers are going to cause problems. And so there's work that's going in right now to trying to find different models, but there's an understanding that if you have a lot of soil between you and the aquifer, then maybe you don't need the same kind of system as somebody who has a lot less soil and therefore needs to contain the waste that's generated. And certainly in porous volcanic rock, it goes through in some cases. In some studies that were shared yesterday, within 10 minutes of flushing a toilet, the wastewater's in the ocean through dye tracer stored studies. But it varies in time from minutes to hours to days. So, but ultimately, even if it were to take years, like Dr. Peng said, eventually it all gets down to the aquifer because that's just how gravity works. And so we are fighting against nature essentially with our, ideas about what it is that we're going to do. So DOH is actually doing these studies to try and figure out what's a good system to recommend. Yes?
Map that was presented yesterday are county systems. And I just wanted to clarify that there are private systems on this island and on all of the islands. So while we see that map, and it's still very, very little sewer. I'm not trying to shade the fact that hardly any of the island is actually sewered or going through treatment, but there are more spots that are treated outside of county systems through privately owned systems, like on the resort side in Waikoloa and in other developed areas.
Yeah, so yes, thank you, Erica. I forgot to mention that. So there's, like, the developers have come in and they've known that they want to develop more. And so they might have a small community hooked up to a wastewater treatment facility with plans to hook up a whole lot more people in the future. So there's actually some kind of great wastewater treatment facilities sitting on the west coast of this island that are underutilized because they were built for more capacity than they're currently serving, while we still have people on cesspools, which of course is like, and so it's just, the truth is, I don't think that the development has been in line with the environment. Well, when is that ever the case, I guess, except for, every person who lived in their society, before 1700s. Yes?
Question, what about federal lands? federal land. There, some of them are required or were required to go and change into septic, and they get pumped, and they're brought to the Hilo municipal system. So everything gets down to Kilcau. I just wanted to let you know that you're talking about moving cesspools, but it comes down Kilcau.
Excuse me, Carrie, are you saying that you've got water, you've got sewer lines from those areas to Calcapa?
No. They're pumped septic.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, the septic systems. So it's just basically no. So between the no and I don't know, it was like 90% of people hadn't pumped their septics. And so usually your septic's gonna back up if it's full. When it doesn't back up and it's just going forever, that means it's leaking. And so the problem is, I think these things are underground, right? So, oh, it's broken, oh, we don't know. We'll never know until somebody inquires further, you know? So if it's above ground and it leaks, of course we're gonna find out. And so that's actually favor a lot of above ground septic, not septic, but septic with plus, septic plus at the very least, because septic really doesn't do anything for treatment.
Not speaking with interrogation test, but an actual project that would determine by experience what needs to be done to manage the problem that you're speaking to. Is there a location that they determine? Is that going to be on the Big Island because we have more cesspools than anywhere else? Or
do you mean a test? What? Like
a demonstration project where they actually would have infrastructure processing the waste to answer the questions that all of these multiple cesspools are.
Oh, okay, so that would be the study that DOH is working on. So they're testing a variety of systems.
There's no actual project. It's
No.
all theoretical this time.
No, I don't know, and I have to look into more closely into what the Sea Grant project is. Erica, do you know what Water Resources is working on?
I know that they have spoke to a couple of different demonstration projects. There's a couple of communities that have kind of come to the top of the discussion around potentially being ready for a transition of some kind to at least be able to use as a case study to see what a transition would look like and how that would benefit water quality. That's just what directly I think is coming from the working group right now. On a more, I think, scientific lens of it, you know, this problem is really significant right now, and I guess the question is do we want to continue to do more science and wait until we see that improvement in the environment until we move forward and actually act on it? And I'm sure many have varied opinions about just that question alone.
At what communities are they doing this?
I don't want to. I know that there is one that is in Kauai, there is one on Maui, and then they also, I know that I've heard rumors of also Puako being looked at potential communities as a potential community.
Are these joint ventures with private developers or are these government?
I don't know anything more beyond that, but I'll be speaking to Puako in just a little bit.
Actually, Eric's here next, so if you want to come down here.
Everybody, thank you.
Yes, thank you.